Hey everybody, welcome back to our neck of the woods. I apologize that we missed Vlogmas Day 16. As I mentioned, that was gonna happen because I've had to work the last several days. And I'm basically just trying to get the very last paycheck of the year closed out and to get some good hours on that paycheck, which will also give me a good payout for the entire year. So again, apologize, I missed a few days. I do again have to work tonight, which is Saturday. So this is the very last night. So we'll probably miss the 16th and we'll probably end up missing the 17th also. But in this video, I don't know how long it's gonna be, but we're gonna do that experiment that I talked about. So I just brought this little thermometer with a time and even seconds on it. This is gonna be what the quality of the air is right now. And these sensors are actually sensors that are sitting outside of the RV and actually sitting in the hot water tank. They're probably gonna turn off in some time because there's no way the signal is gonna cross through the ICF wall, and that RV is like 50 feet away. So these are gonna change, and this literally just came out of the RV a minute ago. So the 68.7 that you're seeing and the 30% humidity, that's in the RV, so that doesn't count. I'm actually gonna leave this down here for probably the next hour, and then we'll go ahead and set up the camera. We'll put it on an ultra fast time lapse, and we'll probably be able to run a cord over to here and actually plug it in for power. So I've got 4 hours of video on this memory card, but if it's super fast, we should be fine that we can probably get a whole 12 hours in. Now, as you can see, it's 4 o'clock right now. So we'll go from 4 o'clock again, probably like right before I go to work. I'll run down here and shut the camera off. But fingers crossed, we can get a full 12 hours and we should be able to pick up Zone 3, which is labeled as priority. That is the basement. So that'll turn on first. And if you guys are unfamiliar, the way this Taco or Taco controller works is if the basement and the garage call for heat at the exact same time, since the basement is set to Zone 3, which again is priority, the basement will actually run for an entire hour before the garage is allowed to turn on. So if they both call for heat at the exact same time, the garage will not turn on unless, again, the basement runs for over 1 hour. If the basement shuts off within 30 minutes, then the garage will go ahead and turn on within that 30-minute window or right after that 30-minute window. But that's the way it's supposed to work. So I don't think that really happens anymore. And I don't think that the basement actually runs for an entire hour when it does turn on. I think it runs for way less than that. So it is pretty much set up that both of these pumps will not run together unless, I guess, the garage is already running and then the basement calls for heat. I don't think it automatically forces the garage to shut off for 1 hour and then allows it to kick back on. I think if the garage is already on, then the basement will just run together. So that again hits our dilemma that we kind of have a water stop here, that I cannot turn the garage pump down to a slower rate because the water just ends up hitting right here as this pump's sending water up and going back to the boiler. But obviously it's a T, so it's also gonna try to send that water to the right-hand side. And then this guy basically just won't work. So this guy at least has to be set up to full blast. And this guy again is still set at full blast unless, I guess I go do a test right now. I guess if I turn the boiler on right now, because it has been over a year, I guess if I turn the boiler down or this pump down to medium, I guess I can see if the water is flowing, or if the water is not, then we know this check valve is the problem and we'll just have to remove it one day. So we get flow, but on a slower rate. And again, I'm still not confident in knowing at what is better. If the flow is at a high rate, then the water quickly runs through the concrete, comes back to the boiler, and it's coming back to the boiler at a hotter temperature because the heat wasn't lost throughout the basement, which means the boiler will turn itself down and not ramp the BTUs up so high because the water's coming back at, let's say, a hotter temperature than if you slowed the rate down and the heat was lost through the concrete. Then if it's no longer returning at 70, and let's say it's returning at 60, Well, the boiler has to ramp up more BTUs to get that temperature back up to the 120. But again, this is all stuff that we still have to play with. So I guess this video is going to do a 12-hour review of the boiler and how often it actually turns on for the basement only. We're going to kick the garage out and not care about that. And then after that is done, I guess we can do the test again and maybe lower it down to like 110 next and actually sees what happens. You know, hopefully we are still returning at 70 degrees, but now we're going out at 110 and not 120, but we're still coming back at 70, which means we will not be using as much BTUs because we're lowering that temperature. But this is the first test, and see, there you go. The sensor's kicked off because the signal cannot travel out. So we still have to wait a little bit of time because I think our temperature is already dropping. We're at 68.4 right now, and I can't remember what I just said it was at, but I know it's not 30% humidity in here. So let's let this acclimate for an hour or so, and then I will set you guys up. Hopefully you'll plug in, and hopefully the time lapse will show a full 12 hours. Wow. Okay. So hopefully you guys didn't just spend time pausing the video and trying to figure all that out. But obviously we've got some problems here. So I can go frame by frame on the computer, and I did just get back from work actually, so I don't have the times memorized 100%. But we started the clock at 5:06. Well, I left the house out of the garage, so clearly you saw the garage kick on at 5:08. And that ran for, I think, an hour and 37 minutes. So that is crazy that the garage runs that long. It's not like opening that door up and closing it made the concrete so cold that it had to run for an hour and 37 minutes. That's nuts. So clearly we have to do some fixing out in the garage, because even an hour 37 I think is way too long for the garage radiant floor to be running. Now, I thought that was bad enough, but then as you saw and fast forward there, at about 8 something, the boiler kicks on finally for the basement, and it ran for what? 4 hours and some change? Holy crap, that is a long time for that boiler to be running. Now, the only thing that makes this test kind of a failure and not really a success at the moment is the fact that what does a normal house run at? Now, I just got off work and I got home and I asked one of the guys at work who's pretty good with this type of stuff. In fact, he even went into detail on his thermostat. He's got it like 10 different settings. So he's watching or he's adjusting the temperature different at nighttime and on the weekends and days that he's home and not home, etc. So he seems to be very good at this. And I asked him, you have roughly a new house with a traditional furnace. What do you think your furnace is doing? And he's like, honestly, it's probably kicking on at least every hour, and it's running for about 15 minutes. Well, that means that his furnace would run for 360 minutes in an entire day, which if you divide that by 60 minutes in an hour, that means that his furnace would run for 6 hours. Now, since we only did the test for 12 hours, that doesn't tell me how long this thing actually runs for. Maybe this thing only kicks on once a day. Maybe it kicks on once every day and a half, or maybe the thing kicks on twice a day. So that's a big what if to know what the basement is actually doing. So unfortunately, this test was kind of a success. It gave us a little bit of insight, but I think I need to do this test again, and then I need to do it again and again and again and again. And I think we need to do it for 24 hours. I need to actually leave the garage shut so it doesn't really play that much of a role, even though we're gonna be coming in and out of the garage all of the time when we're, you know, leaving for work and opening the garage doors and stuff. But at least for the house, I need to know a 24-hour period of actually how long the basement is actually running. And then we can compare, okay, if it only kicked on again one time during an entire day, then I'm only running at 4 hours, 4.5 hours, whatever it actually is. And then a traditional house furnace is running for 6 hours. But I don't know, you guys down below, if you could do an experiment for me, let your furnace run for exactly 1 hour and just tell me how many times it kicks on and for how long. And then we can just multiply that by 24. Yes, obviously location and the time of day and the temperature outside and the sun beating down on your house, all of that is gonna play in. But if anyone could just give me a little bit of insight, a little bit of information, just tell me roughly how many times you think your furnaces are kicking on and for how long. And that will tell me that, no, I guess I'm not really using that much energy because my boiler, again, only went for X amount of time in that same day. So we got to do some experiment. And the reason why I said we have to run the test is because if we want it for 24 hours right now, our water temperature is 120. Our pump is at max speed. We can see what happens. Then we can lower it to 110, which again, will save on gas. But what do you think is gonna happen during that 4.5 hours of runtime? You think lowering this to 110 will have the basement run for 4.5 hours, or will it be 5 hours, or will it still be 4.5? If it's still equal or really, really close, then we know lowering this from 120 to 110 is only going to save on propane. So that'll be good. Then we'll have to run the test again. We can go down to 115 or 105, 100. We can do whatever we want on this in 5-minute increments. So that's a lot of testing that we can do solely just off of the temperature. Then of course we can run it again back at 120, 110, and 100, but we can go from fast, medium, and slow on this. And if you guys are wondering, just because I said that was a possibility, I am curious if the pump will overcome that check valve, because I absolutely cannot remember if it can overcome the check valve. So let's go up to 68 real quick. FYI, it was 66 degrees in here, and the thermostat again is still set to 65. So it would take a long time for that thermostat to kick off, because it would have to go from 66 to 65, and I think 64 is when it would kick on again. So obviously water's flowing, absolutely no problem. Let's go down to medium. Okay, we're still flowing at medium. I can still feel it going through all the pipes. And obviously if the water was not flowing and it was completely obstructed by this check valve, this guy turns off and you'll hear it go through a turn off cycle. So we are good at medium. I guess let's try low too. Okay, we're on low. We're still in use, and I can still feel the water running. Now over here, I mean, yeah, that's coming out hot. I wouldn't say it's at 120 quite yet, but it is getting warmer. And if we go all the way down here, we're already up to 100 degrees. It's only been on for a second. We're climbing, so we're getting up to 105. So this thing probably will get to the 115. Okay, so that answers my question. This check valve does not need removed, and it does not need replaced or anything, because we are flowing water at low speed. So that answers that question. So again, we're just gonna have to do all of this testing on each pump speed, and we're gonna have to do it on like 3 different temperature settings. Hopefully we can go down to low speed so we don't use that much electricity. And hopefully we can get the boiler down to maybe like 100 degrees, which means we're gonna save on propane. And there you can hear the boiler kicks off. See, it gets a really loud hum, and it goes through like a turn-off cycle. But holy crap, we have got some questions to answer. On a side note, I know I said I didn't really care about the garage, and again, you guys saw in that video, the garage did kick on with no one opening the door, like right at the end. But unfortunately, I was leaving for work and I said, hey, Erin, she was working out down here. I said, hey, just bring me the camera in. And she brought it in and the garage was still running. So we don't actually know officially how long the garage was running with no doors going up or down, because she brought it before we saw the end of it. But I think at the end of this video, it was still running for at least an hour. So that probably will hit up to like an hour and a half. So at least for the garage, that does tell us one thing, that when we get the mini split installed out there, cold air rushes in, the floor is still hot, the boiler will kick on, but then you'll be heating the actual air up as it is blowing in hot air, and I'm gonna put it right on that wall, and the thermostat is kind of down below. So that mini split will kick the boiler off sooner than the hour and 37 minutes that we saw. And I'm fairly confident in that. And again, the mini split shouldn't run that often because the radiant should keep it hot in there for so long. It's only when the doors open up and close, radiant kicks on for a minute, mini split kicks on for a minute, and then they both kick each other off. So that should save again on electricity, and it should save again on the propane. And then I guess down here that technically will be the exact same thing that will end up happening one day. The boiler kicks on, tries to heat it up down here for 4.5 hours. The thermostat is located right there. The mini split is going to be located right there. So at least on this side of the gym wall and this side of the bedroom wall, etc., if that thing thinks that it's going to run for 4.5 hours, think again, because it's not. Because that mini split's going to kick on and actually heat this air up in here, and it's going to get to this guy and kick it off. So again, overall, we may be adding a unit that's going to be using electricity, but if we can cut that from 4.5 hours down to like an hour, we're gonna end up saving overall no matter what. So sorry I left you guys hanging here for a few days. I'm gonna get this video out to you guys just so we keep doing all these little tests and you guys are informed and it gives you guys a Vlogmas day. But I'm gonna end it here, put this camera right back down inside, and we're gonna go for 24 hours today, which I think is the 19th until the 20th, and we'll start making a little video there. But again, I apologize for the delay in the videos, but we are getting some good information with this testing, and we just gotta see what works best. So like always, if you guys enjoyed it, you guys got stuff to say. A lot of you guys have said, oh, I'm not an expert or anything, but you guys are giving me awesome detail that I am just not used to seeing, or you guys came across a piece of information that I haven't seen. So just because you're not an expert, please don't not comment. Let me know what you find out, and let me know if you come across articles or other videos. I love watching them and seeing and just getting all that extra information and putting it all together into one. So keep them coming. So until tomorrow at 24 hours, I will see you guys later. Take care.